Hello guys. So this is the part 6 of the current playlist series on microservice, and I will be creating an Ocelot Gateway for routing requests to microservices in ASP.NET 5. So this will be built upon one of the earlier parts where I have built the Ocelot Gateway, just the core project with the template, empty code template, and then I am going to now code this and configure it for routing the request to the microservices, product and customer microservices. So if you like my videos, please subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and click the bell notification icon. So whenever I update any video in my YouTube tutorials, and normally it is once per week nowadays, so you will get an instant notification. So let's get back to the business. So what we are going to learn in this lecture is what is a unified gateway for routing the requests to the microservices, and we'll test the finished product first, install the NuGet package, Ocelot package for the Ocelot gateway in the gateway microservice, configure the program class, configure the startup class, and create the ocelot.json file for configuring the routing. And then run the solution and test with Postman app for get, post, put, and delete. Okay, so introduction to that. Let's get a quick introduction to the API gateway concept, and in particular the Ocelot API gateway. So it's an open source gateway for .NET Core and .NET platform as well, and it unifies multiple microservices, making the client free from the thought of their location. There is a port number and routes. So the uh, multiple microservices, if there are 50 microservices in a enterprise app, so the user doesn't need to um, bear the thought of their URL. Okay, for the various microservices, and that is the job of the API gateway, okay, which itself is a microservice. And it transforms the incoming HTTP requests from the client and forward it to an appropriate microservice. An upstream request, as referred to Ocelot, is the client request as received by the API gateway, which is a microservice itself. So these are the two terms, upstream request and the downstream request. This is to be understood. So downstream request is the request sent by the gateway to the microservice. And let's see the architecture. So this is a client actually now it requests to the local host colon, that is the port number slash gateway slash product, and then it comes the turn of Ocelot API gateway, which has this local host 44367, and that is this port. And then comes the downstream concept where the request is routed from the Ocelot API gateway. After receiving it upstream from the client, it is diverted to the downstream microservice, say product microservice, to this localhost colon 44397 slash API slash product, where this is the port number. 44397 is the port number of the product microservice. A few more features of the Ocelot API gateway, which I haven't covered in the slide, is routing an incoming request to the required microservice. This was covered, and authentication, authorization, and load balance for enterprise application. However, we will demonstrate the routing the incoming request to the required microservice in this lecture. Now, as I will demonstrate to you later that here this solution that has got three projects. Now, all these three projects have to be started up when the solution is run. Okay, so all of these three projects have to be run. So this is the gateway API project. It says hello world, and this is the product microservice and customer microservice with Swagger UI, which you're already familiar with in my past lecture. So you must go through those lectures where I have actually shown the Swagger in action, and I have also built the product microservices with CQRS with um, command query responsibility segregation pattern, and a customer microservice with Dapper. You must go through this. I strongly recommend. Otherwise, this will not make sense. So please go through those lectures in part 2 probably, or And in the last part, so you will come to know about these. You will be up and running with the Ocelot Gateway. Okay, so let's see. All these have to be run now for making all of these three projects, that is customer microservice, product microservice, and gateway.web API to run simultaneously. You have to just configure the solution properties, and in the solution properties, all you have to do is to make the startup project as multiple startup project. Okay, so no, sorry, this is the solution. Okay, now that's fine. So this you'll have to make start, start, and start, apply. Okay, that is this one. That is how it was. It has to be done. Okay, so now let's get back. Now I will not be showing the customer microservice. I'll be just demonstrating the product microservice for the demo purpose. And so I will just minimize the customer microservice, and I will now you can see the product microservice. It is at this localhost 44397, and this Ocelot Gateway Web API is running at port 44369. Okay, and where do we get these port numbers from? A quick recap is that this is through the properties launch settings.json file. So launch settings.json file will give you the SSL port number, and for this gateway.web API project, but that is for the project that we are going to build. The project which is existing, that has got different port numbers. So you can always verify the launch.json settings for the SSL port. Okay, now let's go for the Postman. So again, I mean, reconnecting us to the Ocelot architecture slide. Here you can just remember the client requests to this API, uh, to the Ocelot API gateway at this port localhost colon 44369 slash gateway slash product, and internally the Ocelot API gateway requests to the product microservice at a different localhost at localhost 44397 slash API slash product. So let's see, let's confirm these two port numbers 44369 for the client web API and 44397 for the product API here. So I've opened the launch settings. This is the product microservice, and this is the product microservice for the running application. You can see this is already running 44397, and this is the product microservice, and this is the Ocelot web API, gateway web API, which is running at SSL 44369, which we have just seen. So the reason I have to test it on Postman is because the um, gateway web API is just an empty ASP.NET Core project, so it doesn't have Swagger web API connected for testing. So I'll have to take recourse to Postman. Now I have opened the Postman and put it over here, just um, above our Visual Studio solution running, and I don't want to make it to the full screen because I would like you to see this between to and fro. I'll have to switch just to show you the connection between the Postman request and the launch settings port. So let's create a request, get, and press enter a request URL. So this is the gateway slash product slash one. Okay. Now this is in line with the PowerPoint slideshow which I have just shown you. I'll again show it, which is very important for you to trust in what I am saying. Here you can see localhost colon the port number of the gateway API slash gateway slash product. Okay, and internally it will actually route it to this route. Okay, so we'll see first the get all. So here we'll get rid of this ID and then click on send request. Sending the request, if everything is all right, it will give you a nice output response. So this is a pretty view ID. So these are the uh, responses, ID2, name, car, description, Suzuki, Ignis, and price, this, and ID3, and all these which was coming from the database. This is getting all the list of products with ID, name, description, and price as per the product model, and you can get a raw view over here. Okay, this is the pretty view. So all you have to do is to send the request, form the request over, click on send, and this is the get verb. Now let us do the get by ID. So for the get by ID, I have selected a product with ID 6, and I'm sending the request. And let's see the response. This is the response I have seen earlier, and again I will show you. So it hits the breakpoint over here, and this is the get method with HTTP get with ID passed. This is the int ID, and you can see int ID is 6, so it should work now. Click on continue, and it gets the ID as 6. This is the response. This is the pretty view, and this is the raw view. And if you look for any other product, say ID 3 or 2, click on 2. Again, it hits the breakpoint. Click on continue. The 200 OK, and then this um, response comes, and ID is 2, name, description, price. It's there. They are all there. So now let's go for get all and get by ID, and then let's create a post request. Let's create a new item. Okay, and then what will happen is that I'll create a post request, and I don't need to give the ID because it will be self marked. The ID will be automatically fixed due to our SQL Server primary key. It is auto primary key, and with the seed at 1 and the increment as 1. So name, new product edited again. So let's give it a new name. Apple Mac, whatever. So new MacBook or whatever, and then click on send, and you can as well put this debugger, breakpoint. You can just remove it from here, and you put it on the where create. Okay, bring it back, bring the Postman window back, and then click on send. 404 not found. Okay, that the mistake I did over here is that I shouldn't give this ID. This is not the correct request. So now if I click on send after removing that 2 appended, so it should be all right. Now it has hit the create action method, and if you continue, the response is okay. Now you can check it with the get method, get by ID, append 2 over here. Rather, if you don't know the ID of the newly created item, just go for get request, get all, and click on send. You should see it. If I bring it a little bit up here, Apple Mac with ID 7. Okay, now let's go for, we have seen get by ID, post, and we'll see a put request. Okay, so in the put request, I'll have to actually feed the, let me change this item ID 7, which is newly created. So product 7, And then here also I have to feed the ID 7. And instead of Apple Mac, Linux, say Linux server, whatever. You're just testing it, so it doesn't matter. Test product added. Let it be the same price, okay, and click on send. And you can just, for the sake of um, debugging, you can put it on the update method. Bring it back to this window, which is visible, and then click on send. Now it hits this update action method. So if everything is fine, it should now give me a link. So it's okay result. Now if you look into the get request and get with product ID 7, so Linux server name, all name description changed. All right. Now finally it's a delete. Let's delete. So get post put. I'm not going for patch, but delete. Now delete a product with ID 7. Click it there. 200 OK. Now if you look for this item through the get with ID, you shouldn't find it. No content, and that will be verified by listing all the products as well. So click on send. So you don't find the item with the ID 7. So that's about the introduction to the running application that will be created by the end of this lecture. So please stay on, and you'll be dealt with a new learning experience. So let's go to the learning outcome again. So going back to the learning outcome, we have here, we have covered this. We have finished product testing. We have done. Now install the NuGet package for the Ocelot Gateway in the Gateway microservice. That's the next item. So I have to install the Ocelot package for ASP.NET Core. So right click on the gateway.web API and then manage NuGet packages, and then browse for the Ocelot package. Ocelot by Tom Pallister. Install it. Click on accept, license acceptance. Now you can see the install tab. Ocelot is already installed. Now here, let's close this window. I have intentionally put the 3 launch settings.json. This is the product microservices launch setting. So just to have a ready reference of the SSL port. SSL port for this product microservice is this one, and this is the SSL for the customer microservice. However, we will not be testing the we can test this customer microservice, but we will actually do away with just the one product microservice, just for the sake of not extending the lecture to a very big length. So it will spare us a few more minutes, not doing the same thing over and over again with the customer microservice. And this is finally the SSL port for the gateway.web API. Okay, so after having installed that NuGet package, what is next? There are a few more learning outcomes, like configuring the program class, configuring the startup class, and create the ocelot.json file for configuring the routing, and then running the final solution and test with Postman app, the way we have done with the finished app already. So we'll get back to the project again. Remember, we'll be doing now all the configuration in only the gateway.web API project. So let's bring up the program class. So this is the bare bone basics program class, and here I have to add a bit of code more. So this will be host.create. So now let's build the last part of this program class. So dot configure app configuration hosting object is a lambda expression. Okay, and there is this will be hosting context and a config object, config, not configuration binder, but config, and then let's come over here, and within this parenthesis, curly braces and curly braces, we'll have to write, we'll have to use this config object that we are passing to this lambda expression. So config dot set base path using this hosting context object that you are passing. Hosting context has got an hosting environment. Okay, hosting environment dot content root path, and to this entire thing set base path we can add a JSON file. Add JSON file which we are yet to write, and within the pair of circular braces you'll write ocelot dot JSON optional, bool optional is false, optional parameter, and reload on change true. Whether the configuration should be reloaded if the file changes. Yes. True. Okay. So if you are not sure of writing this part on the fly, I would suggest you to just copy the code from the Microsoft documentation which is available, and or Ocelot documentation, and then put this last part config dot set base path. Okay, now so we are done with this part. There's a small mistake. Ocelot dot, there's a JSON file. So now it's okay, and if I save it and then come back to the startup class. So in the startup, we need to actually services in this service collection, iService collection, you have to add Ocelot services. Add Ocelot. Okay, and immediately the light bulb comes and it is asking for it using Ocelot dot dependency injection. Okay, so this will no, it actually this is a method, so Ocelot dot dependency injection. All right. Now finally, in the configuring the middleware, so you'll have to use the middleware for the um, Ocelot middleware. You have to configure. So await at the end of that use endpoints. So when the use endpoints is reached, after that it will use the app.use Ocelot. Using ocelot.middleware. So why this is objecting? Because I have used the await keyword without the async. So this is an async. Let us run this configure method asynchronously. So now everything is fine. So if you build this project, uh, this build solution, it should build. If everything is all right, all the three projects will build. So in this case, only one succeeded to build because two were already up to date. So it was not a rebuild command. So it is just build this last project, web API dot, this gateway dot web API project, which was changed. Now again, before running this application that we have just recently built, we'll have to right click the solution and properties and multiple startup projects. Okay, so we'll start all of these projects together concurrently. Click on OK, and then let's run this application. The next step will be to create, we have configured the program class, we have configured the startup class. Next will be to create the ocelot.json file, which we have added in the program class, but we have yet to form it. So let's do that now. So right click the, let's close these. This is collapse these customer and product microservices, and right click on the gateway.web API and click on add new item, and you have to add the JSON file. So add new item ASP.NET Core. Now this is JSON file, and let me name this Ocelot. Ocelot.json file will be created at the gateway.web API. So this is the ocelot.json file. Now I have copied the Ocelot on my clipboard, from which I am going to paste just to save time, but I will tell you this, this launch settings.json file, this is for the product one. So this is on the, you can see product.microservice on the mouse over. So SSL port for the product is 44342. Okay, and SSL for the web gateway.web API is 44328, which is not required exactly because the downstream path template is API/product with HTTPS downstream scheme, and this is the port 44342, and upstream template is again /gateway/product for the post and get, which doesn't require the ID to be passed in the request, and for the um, get with ID and delete and put, we have got this. Again, the port is the same 44342 for this, because this will be redirected to 44342. Okay, so this will be redirected to this product port, and then we can run this application. Okay, so I am now running the solution, and I have actually kept only the product microservice and the gateway web API in focus, and I have um, minimized the customer microservice, which we are not testing, because testing one of the microservice with the gateway API is good enough for demo and training. And I am again brought the Postman in front of me with a new get request. Now this is, you can see, just mark this point, that this, the local host here is 44328. This is the 44328 is the port for the gateway.web API for this current application. Okay, so here you can see, verify this 44328/gateway/product, and if I wish to send this request for getting all the products, so you click over here and you can see a pretty view of all the product that is available with us at the moment with ID 5, 6, and 8. Okay, so get by ID, all you need to do is to place that 568, so 5, and here also put ID as 5 in the request body, in the request payload. This is the payload. Okay, this is the request, and this is the request body or payload. You can either get rid of ID, and you can get by with passing the ID as a parameter from the URL, but I have kept this both to not to confuse you. And you have to click on this body, you have to click on raw and select the JSON, okay, out of this few selections. Okay, and click on send, and result is okay again. So you have got this response is the same, ID 5 name string. This is the response. So you've got a response. So this is not matching with this one. So let's see the complete product list to verify our finding. So you can see this is the ID having a ID of 5 has got only name and description as string. So that's fine. Now let's uh, put something. So let's change this. Okay. So put request put HTTP verb and pass 5 over here, ID 5, and here let us make this body as ID 5, name as Toyota car, description Toyota car, and this price 15,000, and click on send again with JSON and 200. Okay. Okay. Now you can again verify it with the get request product 5, send it over here, click on the send button to send the request to the Postman server, and now you have got this ID 5 to, it is changed already. So you've got that put is working over here, that is you can able to update it. And now let's click on a post. Okay, so for post you're creating a new object, so you don't need to pass any ID as a parameter. So and you may get rid of this ID. It will be self-assigned from the database, and the database that I am using is the same database which I used for demoing purpose for running, for showing the running application. And now instead of Toyota car you can write a Nissan car, and description Nissan car again, and instead of 15,000 25,000, click on post, send the request, everything's okay. Now you got this. Okay, so it has been created, and you can check it with get all, and you can see at the end Nissan car with ID 9. Now lastly, this is the delete operation. So let's delete this with the ID 9, and let's see, without giving the ID it will still work. 200. Okay, and if you look into the get all, you will see that this item is already removed with the ID 9. So 5, 6, 8, 9 is missing. It's so we have demonstrated the finished application. So these are all the things that we have learned today. What is a unified gateway for routing the requests? Finished product testing. We have tested. We have put some considerable time in testing the product that we ultimately built, and installed the NuGet package for Ocelot, configured the program class, and configured the startup class, and created the ocelot.json file, and ran the final solution. Thanks for joining me today.